This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, Tuesday, start of the week for this show. As you always know, Tuesdays through Fridays, we're always here, but nonetheless, it's the 17th, it's Tuesday, we're having fun. Playoffs are already underway in the NBA, and if you've read the title, GSMC Sports Podcast, Episode 322, Game 1 Overreactions, you pretty much know what we're going to be doing in this first segment. We're going to be talking about a couple of games this weekend, okay? Maybe we'll give a little recap of all of the scores and all that, but nonetheless, we are going to talk about pretty much the biggest games. The Cavs-Pacers was one. What I mean by overreactions, we're going to see, whether or not there's a problem with the team or if they're good to go still. All right, so like I said, Cavs lost game 1, got blown out. Is there a real problem there, or are the Cavs safe and everyone else is overreacting? We're doing that. Maybe talking about a couple. Like I said, we're probably just going to end up recapping the game 1s and just giving my thoughts on some of them for the first segment. Second segment, should we head over to the NFL, talk about Aaron Rodgers. Says that he wants to be more involved. Well, it's reported that he wants to be more involved in the personnel decisions, pretty much all that. I remember they fired his quarterback's coach without letting him know this offseason, so maybe that's pretty much where that stems from. So we'll be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about the game 2s from yesterday. Philly and Miami ended up playing, and then we had, who was the other? Oh, yeah, Golden State versus San Antonio. So we'll be talking about those. I'm not sure if I want to do those next or kind of split it up. We'll see how it all goes, how it flows out. But nonetheless, we'll be doing that for the first 3 segments. And then for the 4th segment, as we always do, going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. Manchester City ended up winning the Premier League this weekend. We'll be talking about that. Let's see, anything else going on. Maybe some MLB news possibly. And pretty much, like I said, anything else going on in my head, and also making my picks for tonight's games. We got Washington playing versus Toronto in game 2, Milwaukee versus Boston, and then New Orleans versus Portland. So that's how the show's going to go. So let's get right into it. Let's see. Yeah, let's talk about the Cavs and Pacers game first, because obviously that was the biggest story of, I guess, of the game 1s. All right. So we had Indiana playing in Cleveland. Indiana ends up winning 98-80. For the Pacers, you had Bojan Bogdanovic with 15 points, 6 rebounds, shot 5 of 17, 1 of 6 from the three-point line. Miles Turner had 16 points, 8 rebounds, shot 6 of 9. Darren Collison struggled in this one, had 6 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 2 of 9, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. Victor Oladipo could not be stopped in this one. He had 32 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, shot 11 of 19, 6 of 9 from the three-point line. And then off the bench, you had Lance Stevenson, who started off the game hot, had 12 points, 5 rebounds, shot 5 of 11, 1 of 4 from the three-point line. For the Cavs, you had LeBron with 24 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists, triple-double there, shot 7 of 17. Jeff Green with the goose egg here, 0 for 7 from the field, no free throws hit, so ended up finishing the game with 0 points, had 4 rebounds. Kevin Love had 9 points, 17 rebounds, shot 3 of 8. Not great there at all. George Hill took 7 shots, hit 3 of them, only had 7 points. Rodney Hood, who's been a role player for most of his career, had 9 points, 2 rebounds in his start. Off the bench, you had Larry Nance with 10 points, 5 rebounds, shot 5 of 7. Tristan Thompson only played 2 minutes in this one, had 1 rebound, no points. Jordan Clarkson played 21 minutes, had 6 points, shot 2 of 6 there. And then Kyle Korver, who came back from a foot injury, I believe it was, played only 4 minutes, 0 of 3 from the field, didn't hit a shot at all. J.R. Smith, he played pretty well, 15 points, 2 rebounds, shot 6 of 11, 3 of 6 from the three-point line. All right, so here's the overreaction, obviously. The Cavs are in trouble, is what's being talked about. Or are they in trouble? Are they going to get bounced out the first round? And again, those are all very, very, I guess those are good questions to ask right now, but it's a matter of we can't count Cleveland out yet. All right, even though they got blown out at home, game 1 just came out completely flat. It's not time to count them out yet, okay? What we need to do with Cleveland is see how they played this first game, and now move on to game 2, which is on Wednesday. Okay? I'm going to say this right now. Game 2, that is a must-win game for Cleveland, okay? Because if they go down 2-0 or 0-2 at home heading into Indiana, I mean, I highly doubt they're going to be able to take 2 out of Indiana, okay? So best case scenario for me, for Cleveland would be, best case scenario would be them taking 2 in Indiana, which I just don't see, all right? So I'm figuring they're probably going to come back to Cleveland down 3-1, all right? I don't think, and obviously last time Cleveland was down 3-1 in a series was against before this last finals, was the finals before that where they beat the Warriors where they were down 3-1, ended up winning in 7 games, I think it was, in 7 games, all right? That team is a whole lot different from this team, all right? That team had Kyrie Irving. This team has LeBron, and, I mean, who's the next scorer on that team, honestly? Who's the next guy on that team who could create a shot like Kyrie Irving? Let me look through the roster right here. It's not Jeff Green. It's not Kevin Love. It's not George Hill. It's not Rodney Hood. Not Larry Nance. Not Chetty Osman. Not Jordan Clarkson. Not Jose Calderon. Not Kyle Korver. And it's not J.R. Smith. All right? That is the biggest problem with this Cleveland team. Okay? They did not replace Kyrie Irving with a guy who could play like Kyrie Irving. Meaning he doesn't need to do everything that Kyrie did, but at least be able to go out and create your own shot. Kind of like a little second option for LeBron. Because LeBron, I mean, for these other players on this team, they're not really guys who could go out and create their own shot. Kevin Love isn't what he was with Minnesota. And I think, too, one thing we kind of wait for with Kevin Love year after year, it kind of seems to be, well, not me myself, but just in general, is people pretty much, when is the Kevin Love of old coming back? Like, we need to get over that. Kevin Love, the Kevin Love that we see on Cleveland is the only Kevin Love that is available. All right. Kevin Love from Minnesota is long gone, let me tell you. All right. But nonetheless, like I said, going back to the whole Kyrie Irving thing, they never replaced him. All right. George Hill isn't that guy. Jordan Clarkson isn't that guy. Rodney Hood isn't that guy. All right. They were expecting Isaiah Thomas to be that guy, and he got traded to the Lakers. Okay. That's one of whoever's making the moves there, whether it be LeBron, which I doubt that it's him. It's probably, I think it's Dan Gilbert who's running the show, and then Kobe Altman's kind of like the puppet there. And it might even be Kobe Altman that's making the moves, but nonetheless, well, Dan Gilbert did make the move for Isaiah Thomas, so that's where he's at fault there. And Kobe Altman came in and eventually made all the trades and stuff like that. But, I mean, as far as it all goes, yeah, they never replaced Kyrie. All right? This team is LeBron and a bunch of other role players. Okay? Kevin Love at one point was a great player, but like I said, now he's more so. He has a set role with Cleveland. Sit on, rebound the ball, sit in the corner, and if LeBron passes it to you, take your shot. All right? And even then, so, I mean, I feel like, Kevin Love, I said, only took about 9 shots, I think it was, 7 shots. I have to double check that stat. Let me see. Kevin Love took 8 shots in game 1. Get him some more shots, if anything. Because Kevin Love, like I said, he's not what he once was at Minnesota, but Kevin Love still could be a guy where you hand him the ball, tell him to go deep in the post, and work his game. He'll do fine, all right? Get more shots for Kevin Love. Let me see. Obviously, LeBron's going to get the most shots up, but everything else was pretty evenly distributed. I mean, you had Jeff Green who took 7 shots. Kevin Love took 8. George Hill took 7. Rodney Hood took 8. Larry Nance took 7. Jordan Clarkson took 6. And you had JR who took 11. The rest didn't really play enough minutes in order to get any shots up. All right? So I guess, yeah, I mean, you can't really share the wealth that way. You need at least 2 players. Every great team has at least 2 players, all right? Let me go back to last season with the Warriors team, all right? They got multiple. They got Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, all right? They got multiple great players. All right, the year the Cavs won the title, they had LeBron and Steph. Okay, before that, it was pretty much Clay and Steph and Draymond right there. All right, with the Spurs team, you had guys like Kawhi Leonard, Tim Duncan. Okay, when the Celtics won the title back in 2008, it was the big 3. Okay, every team needs at least 2 star players who can go out and pretty much you don't need to worry about. You know they're going to do their thing. Okay, with the Lakers, it was Kobe and Powell. All right, then you had Kobe and Shaq before, Jordan and Pippen, Bird and McHale. All right. You always had great players, at least 2 great players on your team, and the Cavs are lacking that second great player. And now that I think about it, this team isn't this, like, let's see. In the East, I guess the team with 2 great players right now would be the Philadelphia 76ers, but I'm not even sure they make it out of their little series they got with Miami. I picked Miami in 7 games or 6 games, I think it was. But nonetheless, I mean, Philly in the East, who else? I mean, DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, but Kyle Lowry really doesn't work out in the playoffs at all. I'm going to be very interested to see what he does tonight, too, against Washington. I mean, John Wall, Bradley Beal, like the Cavs don't have that 1-2 punch. It's not Kevin Love and LeBron. Okay, Bradley Beal can go and get his own shot. John Wall can go out and get his own shot. Kyle Lowry can get his own shot. So can DeRozan. Ben Simmons can score when he needs to, and so can Embiid. They don't need other players in order to get themselves going. All right, I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying right here. I hope it does, but nonetheless, the Cavs are lacking that second player. Like I said, that was supposed to be Isaiah Thomas, but obviously that never worked. And honestly, I think that Isaiah Thomas from the jump probably should have sat out the entire season, but I mean, as a player like that, you get traded to Cleveland. Obviously, they're waiting on you, so you really can't. So I guess that's a little bad thing right there. But nonetheless, like I said, with the Cavs, they're not in trouble yet or anything like that. I'm not going to go that far, but, okay, there is a but. They do need to win Game 2. All right, not yet time to panic, but if they lose Game 2, then it definitely is time to panic, okay? Because with the Pacers, they got an all-around good team. You got Oladipo, you got Turner, Bogdanovich, who I really like. Thaddeus Young, who didn't play great or anything like that in Game 1, but nonetheless, you know he could be a player who could turn up. All right, off the bench, you got guys like DeMontis Sabonis. All right, Corey Joseph. They do have a very solid team. Lance Stevenson is kind of like that little X-factor player, the little wild card for the Pacers. All right, so as far as the Cavs go, like I said, they lack that second great player. All right, Kevin Love is now a role player, and everyone else has been role players throughout their careers. So we'll see what ends up happening with Cleveland. Like I said, let's not overreact yet. Let's not say they're done. Let's not say it's over. But if they do lose Game 2, then this could be the first time we see a guy like LeBron lose in the first round. All right, so we'll see about it. But let's see, anything else that we could overreact on as far as Game 1s from this weekend? I mean, we can't really talk too much about the Philly game since they played yesterday, and we're going to be talking about that later on in the show. Let's see. Raptors played well. I mean, Kyle Lowry. Okay, let's go to that game. All right. So let's see. We had Washington facing off with Toronto. Washington ended up losing to Toronto 114-106. For Washington, you had John Wall, who shot 6 of 20, 23 points, 15 assists. Bradley Beal had 19 points, 4 assists, shot 8 of 17. Off the bench, you had Mike Scott with 14 points, and then Markieff Morris had 22 points, 11 rebounds, shot 9 of 15. For the Raptors, you had Kyle Lowry with only 11 points, 9 assists, shot 4 of 9. DeMar DeRozan had 17 points, 6 assists, shot 6 of 17. And then Ibaka had 23 points, and off the bench, you had DeLon Wright with 18 points. All right. Obviously, Toronto won this game, like I said, 114-106. The overreaction here is Kyle Lowry shutting down again as the playoffs start. All right, Kyle Lowry is without a doubt the second best player on that team and a top 10 point guard in this league. You could probably make the argument that he's top 6, top 7, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. I guess that's where he falls in the top 10 there. All right, but nonetheless, yes, they won the game. But how often are you going to be able to depend on your bench throughout the playoffs to get you through it? All right. Even with DeMar DeRozan, he didn't really play well at all either. Only 17 points and he shot 6 of 17. Kyle Lowry, 9 shots is inexcusable. 9 shots is what a role player takes, maybe like a third starter or maybe a guy off the bench, your 6-man. All right, if you're the second best player on your team or one of the best players on your team, you got to take more shots than that. You have to be the guy that takes over. All right, Kyle Lowry took less shots than Ibaka, DeLon White, and was pretty much on par with guys like CJ Miles and Anunoby, or whatever you pronounce his last name. All right, took 3 more shots than Valanciunas. Kyle Lowry's got to get his shots up. It doesn't matter to me if he's nervous or whatever. He's got to get those shots up. So I guess looking forward, I'm not even sure if it is an overreaction as far as talking about Kyle Lowry's performance already in Game 1 because we've seen this year after year after year. So, I mean, it's a matter of if he doesn't get going, Raptors aren't going far. But we'll see how it all ends up. And then for the other Game 1s, you had Golden State knocking off San Antonio 113-92. We're going to talk about their game from Monday in the next couple of segments. Probably in segment 3 we'll be doing that. Let's see. You had Philly knocking off Miami 130-103 again. We'll be talking about their game from yesterday in the third segment. New Orleans knocked off Portland 97-95. They're playing tonight. Boston knocked off Milwaukee in overtime 113-107. That was quite the crazy game there. Terry Rozier pretty much absolutely shook Eric Bledsoe, who played as poorly as you could in Game 1, but nonetheless, 0.6 left. Chris Middleton just throws the ball up at the end of regulation. It goes in, so they go to overtime. But nonetheless, Boston, like I said, won that one 113-107. We talked about Cleveland's game. Oklahoma City knocked off Utah 116-108. And then we had the Rockets knocking off Minnesota 104-101. Chris Paul didn't really play too well in that one. Only 5 of 14, did have 14 points, only 4 assists and 3 rebounds. Maybe that's a little something we could talk about there. Chris Paul has never really been someone who, his biggest thing is he can't get past the second round. Is that something that's on his mind? Who knows? But nonetheless, we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking Aaron Rodgers. All right, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent that first segment talking a lot about the Cavs-Pacers game, but more so about what's next. Not what's next for the Cavs, but how do they go about after losing Game 1. I said it's not time to panic yet, but Game 2 is a must-win game, if that makes any sense there. I figure saying a game is a must-win means they're already panicking, but I mean, it's at the point where you go out, you play your game. If you win, well, they have to win. It's true, they do have to win. You don't want to go into Indiana 2 games down. All right, you just simply don't. And as far as the other thing we talked about Kyle Lowry not playing well in Game 1. DeMar DeRozan didn't look too hot either. I mean, is it an overreaction that we're talking about it already saying it's a problem? I don't think so, because of the fact that, I mean, Kyle Lowry's never really been any good in the playoffs whatsoever. So I don't think that's an overreaction there. And then we pretty much gave the scores for all the other Game 1s there. All right, we'll be talking about the Heat-Philly game from yesterday, Monday, on the third segment, and we'll be talking Golden State, San Antonio for the third segment also. All right, but for this segment, we're going to head over to the NFL. Looking like Aaron Rodgers isn't too happy over in Green Bay. All right, and Aaron Rodgers, I mean, where do we see him as far as a quarterback in the league? Is he the best quarterback in the league, or are we still giving that to Tom Brady? And obviously, I know Tom Brady has all the accolades, all the Super Bowls and all that, but as far as pure talent, all right, take away it all. Take away all the accolades, all the rings and all that. Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl ring too and all that. Take it all away. We're just comparing the quarterback, okay? Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. Who are you taking? All right, I take Rodgers, and I do think that Rodgers is more of a talented quarterback than Brady is, meaning Rodgers can do more than Brady as far as rolling out, scrambling, all right, throwing on the run, arm strength. I would take Rodgers, and I don't think many people would go against me for just talking pure talent, one against the other, take away the Super Bowls and all that. All right. But nonetheless, Rodgers is a top 5 quarterback in the league and arguably the best quarterback in the league, arguably the most talented quarterback in the league. Okay. And Green Bay ended up firing his quarterback's coach this offseason and didn't consult Rodgers. Okay. And then I was talking with Tate before the show, and he was telling me that he was walking while I'm listening to one of the local guys in Green Bay telling me how he was upset because they cut Jordy Nelson without talking to him. All right, and obviously this whole report about Rodgers being unhappy with the fact that they're not consulting him, and he would like to be consulted on these decisions, came out today, I believe it was, all right, or recently. And that, I'm not sure how I feel about that, meaning I'm not sure if Aaron Rodgers should be consulted on stuff like this, because it's not necessarily really the norm in the NFL for a player to be consulted on personnel decisions, all right, because if you head over to New England, I don't really think, and that's a whole nother situation with New England. They got some internal problems going in over there, and I mean, eventually we'll probably learn more about them. But nonetheless, in New England, I figure that I don't really think Tom Brady, like Bill Belichick, is calling in Tom Brady saying, "Hey, what do you think of this move? Do you like it? Do you want us to make this move or whatever?" I highly doubt that happens. All right. And the only time I guess you could say it really has ever happened to that extent is, I guess, this little report that's come out about how Tom Brady didn't like the fact that Garoppolo was his replacement. So Robert Kraft told Belichick to get rid of Garoppolo or whatever. All right. And again, that's just a whole other situation going on in New England. But nonetheless, I mean, like I said, I highly doubt that you're bringing in Tom Brady and asking him, oh, what do you think of this receiver? Do you like him? Should we bring him in? That's not happening at all. All right. And you don't really see anything like that anywhere else. Let's see. Let's go over the top quarterbacks. I highly doubt that Russell Wilson is being consulted. I highly doubt that Big Ben is being consulted. Who else is a really good quarterback? Stafford, I doubt, is being consulted. Like, none of these guys, I highly doubt all of them are even being asked about personnel decisions. What do they think? All right. And Aaron Rodgers, with articles that have come out about him and all, has always seemed to come off as kind of like an arrogant type of guy. Like he believes in himself a little too much, meaning I think he thinks he's a little bit too good and all that. Kind of like he wants the LeBron treatment, I feel, what's going on here. And like I said, we've never seen this in the NFL, but over in the NBA, we do see guys getting consulted as far as moves. All right, LeBron, I'm sure, gets consulted with every move that the Cavs are thinking of making. And that's the NBA. I mean, LeBron probably does. I'm sure. I don't think Kobe Bryant ever did. I figured Kobe was like, you know what, put whoever there. It doesn't matter to me, but we're going to make sure that we're going to win. All right. Michael Jordan, I think, was a guy who was consulted. Let's see, who else? Who in the league now do I think? I mean, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, they've already had their team there for that long, and I'm not sure really they asked, oh yeah, Steph, you want Kevin Durant to come over here? I mean, I highly doubt that was a conversation they had. Damian Lillard is a guy who has been asked and stuff like that, and Damian Lillard pretty much wanted a say in it because of the fact that he is the best player. And the NBA is just built differently from the NFL, so it's kind of normal over there. But rather than the NFL, I mean, it's just with Aaron Rodgers. Yes, you're the most talented quarterback in the league, and yes, you are probably the best quarterback in the league, but it's just a matter of that's not how the NFL has ever been run, or teams have ever been run. All right, you're not going to be a guy where you're going to be asked, okay, do you like this? Do you like that? Because of the fact that you're just a quarterback. All right, over in the NBA, yeah, it may be different, but here it's just you play your position, you show up, and you play with what the team puts out there. All right, as far as the quarterback's coach thing, I do think that's one thing they should have talked to Rodgers about because of the fact that's something so close to a guy like Rodgers. All right, you're working with the quarterback's coach all day, every day, I feel. And I'm not one who is in NFL locker rooms or around teams or anything like that, so I'm just speculating here, but I'd figure, yes, your quarterback is always talking with your quarterback's coach, and they're always discussing something. So for the Packers to get rid of a guy like Alex Van Pelt, Rodgers is former quarterback's coach now, just given with how Rodgers has played so far in his career and I guess the relationship that they had, because I mean, Rodgers went on a couple of ESPN shows and talked about how he didn't like the fact that they didn't talk to him about it and they just cut him. All right. I do see that being a problem there, but that's it. As far as the Packers cutting Jordy Nelson and not talking to Rodgers about it, I'm fine with that. All right, Rodgers doesn't need to be consulted on who's getting cut, who's staying. Rodgers needs to be just worrying about, okay, I got Devontae still here, I got Cobb still here, I can work with them. All right, not, oh yeah, they didn't tell me they were cutting Jordy Nelson, because I mean, let's be real here. What's Rodgers like? Let's say that conversation, they go, hey, we're thinking of cutting Jordy Nelson. All right, Rodgers like, no, I like him. Yeah, well, his production has gone down the last 2 years, and we're supposed to pay him, what, $13 million, I think it was, somewhere around there. All right, we got Devontae Adams, who is cheaper and the number one receiver. Now we got Randall Cobb, who was set to make the same amount of Jordy Nelson, and I figure Randall Cobb is still is now a better player than Jordy Nelson at this point in their careers. All right, as far as all-time receivers, I guess you could say Randall Cobb or Jordy Nelson, but as far as this point in time, I would take Randall Cobb over Jordy Nelson. So it's a matter of who do we want to pay. All right. I highly doubt that Aaron Rodgers saying, no, keep Jordy Nelson here, I like him, would have the Packers still keep him because of the fact that the NFL is run more like a business. All right, whereas in the NBA, you got guys like LeBron. I mean, guys are coming in to play for the minimum. So if LeBron wants a guy there, yeah, you can afford to keep him there. But as far as Jordy Nelson goes, why not use that money on a different type player? All right, or at least have cap space for if a trade situation pops up. I mean, like now, if they didn't cut Jordy Nelson, they wouldn't have any chance whatsoever at going after a guy like Dez Bryant. I'm not saying they are or are not, but they have been rumored as far as a team that could possibly bring him in. All right, but let's say you got Jordy Nelson there because Aaron Rodgers said, no, keep him. I mean, who do you think is the better receiver right now at this point in time, Jordy Nelson or Dez Bryant? You say Jordy Nelson, you just don't like Dez Bryant, or you just haven't paid attention the last couple of years. Yes, Dez Bryant has gone down a bit, but I think that's more so because of the fact that the offense has switched up big time compared to when Romo was there and now Dak Prescott, and that's a matter of it doesn't fit Dez Bryant. Jordy Nelson is just old. Jordy Nelson is, 34 years old, and people will point, oh yeah, Oakland replaced him with Michael Crabtree. Yeah, that was a bad move. That was a culture locker room change move. All right, Jordy Nelson is nowhere near the receiver that Michael Crabtree is at this point in time. I'm sorry to say it, but it's the truth. All right. But nonetheless, as far as Aaron Rodgers being consulted and all that, I mean, I don't like it. I don't think he needs to be consulted. If Tom Brady's not being consulted about the moves that they're making, then Aaron Rodgers definitely does not need to be consulted about the moves the Packers are making. And I guess this is all, I'm not sure how this ends for Green Bay here, okay? Aaron Rodgers has seemed to be pretty frustrated with what the Packers have done so far this offseason as far as, like I said, getting rid of his quarterbacks coach and Jordy Nelson. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers is up for a new deal pretty soon. I mean, if anything, the Packers got to get that done this offseason because of the fact that, I mean, next year, after the 2018 year, 2019 is Rodgers' last season under contract. And if I'm Rodgers, I mean, I don't really like, from what I see, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't like what they've been doing, I mean, why would you want to re-sign with this franchise rather than going somewhere else? All right. Seems like there's been a lot of, a lot of tension between the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. And obviously with New England, like with Belichick and Brady, I mean, we're not really going to get all the info as far as all that, but I mean, we are getting a lot as far as what's coming out of Green Bay. All right. Like I said, Rodgers isn't happy with what they've been doing. He'd rather be consulted on what they're doing rather than pretty much in the dark. I don't agree with it. All right. I'm sure he sees guys like, I'm almost positive he sees it going on in the NBA. He's like, you know what, why aren't they doing this to me? And I guess as far as that logic goes, yeah, that's a fine little question to ask, but it's the NFL, all right? You go out, you play quarterback, you throw to who the team puts out there, all right? And this could set a nice little precedent if the Packers do end up consulting Rodgers on the moves and stuff like that, but I just don't see it happening, and I'm not sure really how this little marriage ends between the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. You figured that the Packers would be, you figured that you got an all-time great quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying top 5, but nonetheless, he is one of the best quarterbacks. I'm not even going to get to it. All right, one of the best. You got the best quarterback in the league. You figure that you're going to keep that guy on your team till he retires, but now it's just a matter of it's not looking great there. All right, obviously you can throw whatever kind of sum of money out there, and he's probably going to think about it and all that. But nonetheless, I mean, if I'm the Packers, yes, you would like to keep Aaron Rodgers happy, but as far as the whole consulting thing, I mean, that's a little out there as far as the NFL goes. All right, so we'll see what ends up happening in Green Bay. A little bit of a weird situation there, but like I said, I mean, who knows? Maybe Rodgers just doesn't end up in Green Bay anymore after the next 2 seasons. So we'll see about it. But next up, we're going to be talking about the game 2s, Philly versus Miami and San Antonio versus Golden State. So stay tuned for that, and we will be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked about Game 1 of the NBA playoffs for all matchups. Well, I mean, we more so talked about Cleveland, Indiana, and then Toronto and Washington, and then gave these scores for all the other ones. Second segment, we talked about Aaron Rodgers as far as his the report that came out that he'd like to be consulted on pretty much personnel moves and pretty much, I guess, is everything of what the Packers are doing, I guess, is what it sounds like. I mean, they fired his quarterback coach. He wasn't too happy about that, and it seems like he hasn't been too happy about the fact that they cut Jordy Nelson, too. All right, so, I mean, I don't think anyone else has ever really consulted on the team's personnel moves. I highly doubt that Tom Brady is. Russell Wilson, we talked about in the last segment, so maybe you want to check that out again, check it out. But nonetheless, for this segment, we got a couple of Game 2s that were played on Monday. We had Philly versus Miami, or I should say Miami versus Philly, and then San Antonio versus Golden State. So we're going to talk about those for this segment, and then for the fourth segment, like I said, we're going to talk about anything else going on in the world of sports, and going to be making my picks for the games going on tonight. So let's get into it. First up, we had Miami facing off with Philly, and Miami ended up winning this one 113-103. For Miami, you had James Johnson, who shot 7-7 from the field, had 18 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. Josh Richardson had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 5 of 12, 1 of 5 from the three-point line. Goran Dragic had 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 8 of 14, 1 of 3 from the three-point line. And then off the bench, you had Kelly Olynyk, who played all right, had 11 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 3 of 8, 1 of 2 from the three-point line. Justice Winslow played 21 minutes in this one, had 2 points, 3 rebounds, shot 1 of 5. But don't let that little box score stat right there fool you, because of the fact that Winslow was playing very good defense in this one. It was playing in some crunch time minutes, right? It was guarding Ben Simmons for a bit and did well on him too. Guarding him too. So, I mean, as far as the points and stuff go, yeah, those are low, but nonetheless, Justice Winslow did play pretty well. All right, then you had Wayne Ellington, who had 11 points, didn't shoot the ball relatively well at all. I mean, he had shot 3 of 10 from the field, 3 of 8 from the three-point line. And then Dwayne Wade, blast from the past here, had 28 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 11 to 16 there. All right, for the Sixers, you had Aaron Ilyasova with 14 points, 11 rebounds, shot 7 of 10. Dario Saric had 23 points, 9 rebounds, shot 8 of 21, 3 of 10 from the three-point line. Robert Covington still can't find his shot. He shot 3 of 13, 1 of 9 from the three-point line, 7 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Ben Simmons had 24 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, shot 10 of 17. JJ Redick didn't really shoot the ball well at all in this one. 4 of 13 from the field, 1 of 7 from the three-point line, 11 points, 4 assists. And then off the bench, you had, Amir Johnson, who had 6 points, 7 rebounds. Markelle Fultz only played 5 minutes in this one, 0 of 3 from the field, no points, no rebounds, no assists. Marco Bellinelli had 16 points, shot 5 of 13, 2 of 8 from the three-point line there. All right, let me hit over to Game 1 and give you like a little basis as to the difference from there to now. All right, obviously in Game 1, I mean, it was a completely different game because you had Philly winning that one 130-103 for Miami. I mean, Dwayne Wade only had 11 points in that one. Did shoot 4 of 7. Kelly Olynyk played a lot better in that one. And let's see, Josh Richardson didn't play well. Hassan Whiteside, this is back-to-back games. He hasn't played well. I think he only played, I have to double check how many. Let me see how much. What is stat? All right, yeah, so he played 15 minutes in Game 2, 1 of 2 from the field, only 5 rebounds, 4 points there. All right, so back-to-back poor games there. Dragic was 4 of 14 from the field, and then for Philly, I mean, everyone played well. Sarge shot 8 for 15. Simmons was 5 for 13, but he nearly had a triple-double. Redick was 8 of 13 shooting, had 28 points. Off the bench, you had Ilyasova with 17 points, and then Bellinelli with 25 points, who shot well there too. All right. Game 1, Philly shoots 64%, 47% from 3, and in Game 3, let me see how they shot the ball here. They were 19% from 3, and I got to mix that. They shot 47% from the field, 64% from 3 in that first game, all right? So, yeah, 19% from 3 in this one, and then 41% from the field in this one, all right? So, obviously, a big difference there. And I was talking about it on the GSMC basketball podcast yesterday, pretty much talking about the fact that Philly's Game 1, I mean, Miami really shouldn't have been too worried about it because of the fact that even with Miami playing pretty good defense on Philly, I mean, nothing they just couldn't miss. All right, you had Marco Bellinelli hitting fadeaway three-point shots. Aaron Ilyasova was just a monster out there, and I mean, it's just Philly was just all around better, right? Everything went their way. And I'm not talking about refs or anything like that, but as far as the second chance opportunities, the hustle plays, everything just went Philly's way. The bounces, all that. All right, so as Miami, I mean, you really can't get too mad about it. Pretty much, oh, well, we lost, on to the next one. And that's exactly what happened there. All right, for Game 2, Philly obviously didn't play as well as they did in Game 1, and it's just a matter of Miami hung in there and they won by 10 points. All right, Miami was up for pretty much the entire game. I mean, Philly did take a lead at one point, I think it was in the second half, but it was a matter of, Miami took it right back. All right, kind of like with the Cleveland-Indiana game, just more so this one was a bit closer. I mean, with Indiana and Cleveland, you had Cleveland who were trying to make runs, who did make runs, but Indiana, every time Cleveland would make a run, just shut the door on them. All right, that's pretty much what Miami did here. Philly would get close. Miami hits a 3 there, gets a stop over there, and then hits another 3 back over here. Boom, you're fine. All right, so with Miami, I mean, I kind of like it. 1-1 in Philly. Now you're heading over to Miami. You know you're probably going to get a win there. All right, and if you're Miami, I mean, you're the lower seed. You want to have this series, I guess you could say, extend out as much as you can, just because of the fact that as the longer the series goes, the more you have a chance, obviously. That goes without saying, but nonetheless, I mean, I did pick Miami to win the series in 6 games. All right, I think it was 6 or 7. I'm almost positive it was 6. I think I have to double check. I mean, I have to check Friday's episode to see my predictions. But nonetheless, I mean, with Miami, the reason why I picked them to win this series was because of the fact that, I trust Spoelstra to go out and make the right adjustments to beat a team like Philly. All right, that's exactly what he did here. Miami controlled the tempo a bit. And one thing, too, we got Joel Embiid, who he posted on his Snapchat story, Instagram story. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said he was like sick and tired of being babied. And he posted that right after the game. And I think that has to do more so with the fact that Philly just isn't letting him go out there yet. And Philly, they do have a weird way of dealing with their younger players, like just in the way of, how do I say, just they're being a little too cautious, I feel. We've seen this with all their players, with guys like Nerlens Noel when they had him. Joel Embiid sat out for 2 years, I think it was. Ben Simmons sat out an entire year. Markelle Fultz was out for most of the year. They do hold their players out a lot, and maybe it's just a matter of, with Embiid, I think it's time to let the leash off him. All right, he's got a real short leash as far as his injuries and all that go. They won't let him out there until they feel he's ready, but it's a matter of, you can't have the Band-Aid wrapped around him the entire time. Eventually, you're going to have to rip that Band-Aid off. He's going to have to go out. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. All right, you can't really control that. Keeping him out there isn't going to help Philly. All right, but nonetheless, with him coming back, whether it be Game 3 or Game 4, I kind of think that, it's going to benefit Philly, but I think it's also going to benefit Miami too, because of the fact that when you got guys like Ben Simmons, Bellinelli, all those guys out there, you can run that fast-paced tempo. All right, Game 1 was a perfect example of that. Miami couldn't keep up with Philly in that game. All right, couldn't keep up with the shooters or anything like that. Philly was getting a lot of open shots, and it was just boom, 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 boom. Just quick-paced attack at Miami. This game we saw was a little bit more slowed down in Miami. It was benefited because of it. That's why they won. All right, you get Embiid back. All right, obviously you're going to have to slow the game down a lot more if you're Philly, because of the fact that you're going to have to get the ball to Embiid in the post rather than having your shooters go up and down the court taking shots there, or even Ben Simmons running back and forth. Now you're going to have to get Joel Embiid back in there, pretty much get him his shots. All right, that's going to benefit someone, I guess, like you say, like Hassan Whiteside, who has completely struggled in these first 2 games. All right, Kelly Olynyk has been Miami's pretty much top center for these first 2 games, and that's because of the fact that he can play in a style like that where you have Philly running back and forth. All right, Whiteside is your prototypical center where he needs to be playing defense in the post and pretty much just not out on the three-point line trying to guard guys. All right, let me see what Philly starting lineup was on for Game 2. I don't even think they started like a true center here. They started Ilyasova, Saric, Covington, Simmons, Redick. All right, all those guys can play on the perimeter. Whiteside can't guard on the perimeter, all right? They didn't start Amir Johnson or anything like that. This is why Whiteside only played 15 minutes, okay? Because of the fact that he's no use out there when it's all perimeter players. When you got a guy like Embiid out there, he's going to be more so in the post. Yeah, he can go out on the three-point line, but it's a little easier to guard for a guy like Hassan Whiteside because you don't have to deal with the agility or the athleticism of like a Dario Saric, who's just it's ridiculous how big Saric is, but then nonetheless, he can go out there and drive like no one other and pretty much play well on the perimeter like no other, all right? So as far as Embiid coming back, I think that's going to benefit It's going to benefit both teams because of the fact that the game's going to slow down a bit more. Miami can start running more of their half-court defense. And as far as Philly goes, Whiteside is a top 5 center out there, or Embiid is a top 5 center out there in the NBA. So obviously, when you get a top 5 player back, you're going to be at his position. You're going to be even better. So we'll see how it all ends up. But like I said, I still do got Miami winning this series, but it's going to be one that probably goes 6 or 7 games for sure. Then for the second game of the night, the final game of the night, we had the San Antonio Spurs facing off with the Golden State Warriors, and Golden State won this one 116-101. For the Spurs, you had LaMarcus Aldridge with 34 points, 12 rebounds, shot 11 of 21. Rudy Gay got the start on this one, had 12 points, 5 rebounds, shot 6 of 12. Patty Mills had 21 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 7 of 16. Nothing really notable off the bench. Manu Ginobili had 10 points there, and then Pau Gasol had 12. For the Warriors, you had Draymond Green with 9 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, shot 2 of 9. Iguodala had 14 points, 7 rebounds, shot 5 of 7, 4 of 5 from the three-point line. Kevin Durant had 32 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Only missed 9 shots in this one. JaVale McGee had 10 points, 7 rebounds. And then Klay Thompson, who's just played well these first 2 games, 31 points, 5 assists, shot 12 of 20, 5 of 8 from the three-point line. And then off the bench, you had David West with 10 points, 4 rebounds. And, no one else really did anything too notable. Quinn Cook had 6 points there. This series is over. It's probably going to be a sweep, to be honest. With the way the Warriors have played, and with how, I mean, the Spurs are pretty much trying to do everything, and they just cannot, they don't have an answer for the Warriors here. All right, I said this series was going to go 6 games. I was completely wrong. I did say that the Warriors were going to win, but as far as how many games, it was going to go completely wrong. All right, Kawhi Leonard's out for the year, and it just seems like the Spurs are even fed up with Kawhi Leonard, more so rather than Kawhi's fed up with the Spurs. It just seems like, I mean, you had Popovich after the game saying that LaMarcus will play through anything and stuff like that, and Popovich has never really been that type of coach to send messages to other players, but it kind of seems like it was at that point. And Popovich was talking about how, I mean, the only way Kawhi comes back is if his team, like the guys around him, clear. All right, not even the Spurs trainers or anything like that. Kawhi's got to get pretty much cleared by his camp in order to come back, which is just ridiculous. And I'm sure that Kawhi probably, his little camp, the guys that he has around him, probably tell him in his ear, look what happened to Isaiah Thomas. Do you want that to happen to you? All right, you're out for a contract pretty soon. Do you want that to happen, or do you want to end up like Isaiah Thomas, where now I don't even know what Isaiah is going to be making? So as far as the Spurs go, I mean, they're in trouble. They're going to get swept, and if they don't have Kawhi Leonard back after this season, he goes somewhere else, he gets traded. I mean, they better hope they get something good for him, because other than that, this is going to set this team back greatly. And as far as the Warriors go, I mean, you go through the series, just don't get hurt. Go out here, win these next 2 games, and you got nice little rest. Even best case scenario for the Warriors is that they sweep, all right? Because you have a nice little break, and Steph Curry gets even more time to pretty much rest up on that MCL sprain and get it ready to go. So we'll see how it all ends up. But as far as that series goes, I mean, it's pretty much over. Spurs, whatever they do, it doesn't matter because the Warriors are going to beat them. So we'll see. I guess maybe the Spurs can pull one out, which I highly doubt in San Antonio. But like I said, we'll see. But that's going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked about Game 1 in the NBA playoffs. We talked more so about Cavs and Pacers and Toronto and Washington rather than the other games. We gave the scores for the other ones, though, so we did that for the first segment. Like I said, I mean, Cleveland's got to win Game 2 here, and Kyle Lowry's really got to step his performances up here in the playoffs. Segment 2, we talked Aaron Rodgers. All right, he wants to be, well, I mean, he sent out a tweet pretty much sarcastically shooting it down. And, I mean, he went on an ESPN radio show, I can't remember which one it was, that said he would have liked to be consulted on his quarterback's coach getting fired. And, I mean, maybe Rodgers is trying to save face here, but I'm more inclined to believe the report about him wanting to be consulted rather than him saying that it's not true or whatever, because the fact that he's already said it before. All right? He's already said it before. I'm sure Rodgers out here trying not to cause problems, but nonetheless, I mean, I believe it. I believe it. All right? So there's that. Third segment, we talked about Game 2 between Philly and Miami. We talked about the series of between Golden State and the Spurs. I mean, that series is over. That's going to end up being a sweep, maybe a gentleman's sweep there if the Warriors are nice. And as far as the Philly and Miami series goes, I can see that series going 7 games. I think my original pick was Miami in 6, but nonetheless, I'm still sticking with Miami. And we'll see what happens once Embiid comes back and doesn't seem too happy with the way the Sixers have been handling his little medical treatment and all that as far as letting him play or not letting him play. Brett Brown came out and said that they are unified in the handling of his injury. And, I mean, the Philly's always been a team where they've been a little overly cautious as far as holding their players out. So, I mean, I'm sure there is some issue there, and I'm sure Embiid's not happy about it, but we'll end up seeing what goes on there. All right. the Tampa Bay Bucks ended up picking up Jameis Winston's fifth-year option. I mean, that's pretty much fine. That's good. I like Jameis. I think he is the future for that franchise, and I do think that they're eventually going to need to ink him up to a long-term deal there. All right. The only problem with Jameis is that he's not really the smartest quarterback, meaning he commits way too many turnovers, way too many boneheaded turnovers, I should say. All right, because every quarterback's going to throw an interception or two, but it's just Jameis Winston's like you could avoid it. He could probably have avoided at least half of his turnovers, so we'll see what goes on there. I'm going to talk more about him in the GSMC football podcast. That's going to be out later today, so make sure you check that one out too after you're done checking out this one. And then Anthony Rizzo came out and said that he wants fewer games. He says they play too much. And that caught my eye there because of the fact that the MLB does play 162 games per season, and it's a matter of, I guess my question is, why do they play that much? All right? Like, that's one thing I want to know. Like, I have no real problem with the MLB season being too long. I mean, as a fan, what am I going to do? I just sit there and watch. It's not a problem for me. But as far as the players go, I think it is starting to become a problem for them because of the fact that it's 162 games. All right? It's a whole nother half of an NHL or NBA season pretty much. All right? A little bit less. I think like 2 games less than what 2 of those seasons would be to put together. All right? And it's just a matter of, like I said, why is it even that long? Like, as a baseball fan, it didn't really matter to me because of the fact that I don't have to play. If the baseball game's on and I want to watch it, I'll put it on. If it's not, I got a whole bunch of other games I could watch as the year progresses. They go from April to October. All right? The month of April, May, June, July, September, and then October. That's 6 months in a season. All right? And I guess, how long is the NBA? NBA starts mid-October, so that's not even a full month. So it's like a half. November, December, January. November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. NBA season is about 8.5 months, but they're not nearly playing as many games as the MLB does. All right? These MLB players are probably playing about 6 times out of the week, 5 times probably on average. 5 out of the 7 days they're playing. NBA teams are really playing maybe 3 times out of the week, depending on back-to-backs, and even more so they do get a couple of days of rest. All right? It's tough. It's a tough season, and it probably gets extremely long. You probably lose interest, and that's one of the reasons why I think that the MLB, as far as just overall ratings compared to the NBA and NFL, and I'd have to double check the numbers and all that, but I do feel that they would be lower than those 2 leagues. Obviously with the NFL, because the NFL trumps all. But as far as the NBA goes, yeah, I'm sure the MLB has lower ratings because of the fact that it's like I said, what I said earlier. All right, I'm not too worried about missing a game. The only games I really tend to watch are like Red Sox, Yankees games, maybe Giants, Dodgers games, all right, because of the fact that I know I got all season. If I want to watch my team play in a random regular season game, then yeah, I'll do it. All right, but if not, I'm like, okay, I got a whole bunch of other games to look forward to. All right, meaning going forward, I don't have to. It's okay for me to miss this one. Whereas in the NFL, you got to watch your team every Sunday because it's a short season. There's only 16 games. NBA, it's more so. It's a whole lot more entertaining, and it's just like I said, it's a shorter season. You got to tune into those. It's like, okay, once, like in the West this season, it was perfect. All right, you lose one game, another team wins, you could drop down 4 spots in the West. All right, so that's where you had to watch the games. The MLB, you don't really see that happening there, especially with how long the season is. Okay, you can afford to miss about 60 games out of the season. Yeah, you can miss 62 games out of your team's season and still watch 100 of them. Doesn't that seem a little bit excessive there as far as the length of the season? And plus, if the players, just put a lot on them. It's a long season right there. All right? And it does give time, I guess, for injuries to heal up, like from getting hurt in the beginning of the year to being back before the season's over and all that. I do see that there, but it's just a matter of, like, why do we need to have 162 games? Knock it down 30 games. Make it 132. Make it 122. Heck, even make it 100. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not going to lose any sleep if the MLB knocks games off because of the fact that, like I said, it's more so for the players rather than it is for the fan. I'm not going to be uptight about them knocking some games off. Who cares? All right? I'll still watch all the other ones. That's still plenty of games. 100 games is like a ton, I feel. All right, but nonetheless, he says that they play too much, and I agree. But like I said, as a fan, I'm not going to complain about it because of the fact that all I have to do is watch. It doesn't matter to me. If I don't want to watch it, I'll just turn it over to something else. All right, but nonetheless, there's that. And then, like I said, Manchester City ended up winning the Premier League title over the weekend. They knocked off Tottenham 3-1, and what got them the title was Manchester United losing to West Brom 1-0 on Sunday. All right. Against Tottenham, Manchester City pretty much put on a clinic. Tottenham was down 2-1 at the end of the first half. It looked like they were maybe going to do something, but after that, second half comes and it's just all City there, controlled it, played well, ended up finishing 3-1. And like I said, when United losing, that's what got them the title. And I mean, there's still 5 games left in the Premier League season, I believe. Okay. But yeah, there's 5 games left. Isn't that kind of ridiculous how they've already won it? Like, it's over. The season's over. They're going to play these 5 games and it doesn't even matter anymore. All right, there's nothing really to play for. I mean, maybe you got teams like Tottenham. Let me see how the Premier League table is looking so I can see, because I'm not even sure if there's really anything to play for in the for the top 4, because it's pretty much, I'm sure United and Liverpool got their spots already. Let me see really what's going on here in the Premier League, because I'm not sure how far off Chelsea is from the 4 spot. Chelsea currently has 60 points. So if they win, they have a game in hand too. So Tottenham's played 34, Chelsea's played 33. So I guess if they win, they're 5 points down. But it's just a matter of, I mean, there's no real chance of them really. There's a chance if Tottenham just completely blows it. But nonetheless, I mean, Arsenal's got 54 points, so they're not coming back. So, I mean, the only race, I guess, is between Tottenham and Chelsea. And I just highly doubt Tottenham losing a bunch of games to end the season. So it's pretty much it's over. All right, there's nothing really to look forward to. But nonetheless, I mean, Manchester City. Listen to this, okay? United, who's in second, read you the top 6 goal differentials, all right, in the Premier League. United's got a plus 37 goal differential. Liverpool, who is in third, has plus 43. Then you got Tottenham at plus 35. Chelsea's at plus 24. Arsenal's at plus 17, all right? Manchester City, listen to this, is at a plus 68 goal differential. That's ridiculous. They've only lost 2 games this season, drew 3, and won the rest, all right, with 28. We got 87 points. Like I said, they're league winners. I mean, has there ever been a team in the Premier League as dominant as Manchester City? You could say, yeah, the Invincibles team from at Arsenal in 2003, possibly. Well, you could not possibly. You could argue that they were, all right, because they didn't lose a game, all right. But as far as if you want to put City as the second best team, I'm fine with that too, because of the fact that, I mean, look at this, 5 games left. All right, and the league's already over. City could play their younger players, and it's not going to make a difference. So, I mean, congrats to City. Manchester's blue right now. I'm sure United's not too happy about it because of the fact that, I mean, you never want to see your rivals from the same spot go out and win. All right, and I do think that Manchester United do need to think about getting rid of Jose Mourinho because of the fact that I just think that it's not good morale with him at the team. I mean, guys like Pogba, Alexis Sanchez, their quality has gone down, and it's just they haven't looked good. I think it's more so the coach rather than it is the players. But we'll go on and see pretty much what ends up going on there. But let's make my picks for tonight's games, and then we'll wrap it up right after. All right. So we got the Wizards versus the Raptors. Like I said, Raptors ended up winning 114-106 in Game 1. I'm going to go with the Wizards winning this one. All right. I think they're going to play well, and I think they're going to get it. Then we got the Bucks versus the Celtics. I mean, that game doesn't go to overtime if Boston doesn't get into early foul trouble. I think they were already within the bonus. I mean, with like 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I think they're going to be able to pull this one out. Terry Rozier, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Morris all played well in that first game, and I think they're going to be able to step up in this one too. Then you got the Pelicans versus the Trailblazers. I'm going to go with the Trailblazers in this one. Ended up losing Game 1. Damian Lillard really didn't play too well at all, but I think he's going to pick it up in this one. So those are my picks for tonight. I mean, no upsets. All the home teams are all favorites, so yeah, like I said, I got the Wizards winning, so that is an upset. So I got the Wizards as my upset pick, then I got the Celtics and Trailblazers winning. So that's going to wrap it up here. Today we talked about the Game 1s of the NBA, talk more so about Cleveland and Indiana, and then Washington and Toronto for the first segment, then gave the scores for the other ones. We talked about Aaron Rodgers. Third segment, we talked about yesterday's Game 2s in the NBA, and then for the fourth segment, we talked Manchester City, talked about the MLB season, and anything else that was going on in the world of sports, and also made my picks. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. We'll be back tomorrow, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.